could we build an Indy car influenced car, but still make it a traditional roadster?
Okay.
That's where it kind of started.
Okay.
And so on about
Which is it's a weird eclectic sort of blend
it is, it is.
of two different types of avenues.
It is, but Indy I was a Indy car nut when I was in school because, and my uncle, my great uncle, was the first chief of tech at Indy.
Really?
Yeah. And
what was his name? Oh, okay. It's not important.
Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
Welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith. This is kind of special because Steve is not here, Cam's not here, but I'm with my good friend Jack Chisenhall, and we're gonna let's just get into it, shall we? So first of all, we have to thank our sponsors, our friends at arp-bolts.com, and also want to give a shout out to our friends at the Grand National Roadster Show, because they're out here. They give us a little place to visit, and you were here with your car. Yep. So this is a great situation. We want to thank all those guys that help us out with this, because it would be much more difficult. Imagine trying to out there somewhere. Oh my goodness. it would, we talked about chaos before. It would be chaos. Yeah. But okay. So we're at the Roadster Show and you have an entry as an Amber car.
Yeah, sure.
So tell us about it.
Okay. It's a 1932 Ford, original body, original frame car that I've had forever.
Really?
And yeah, I don't remember when I got it, but, so I, busy at Vintage Air, and so it's hard to do all these things. But I finally got started on it probably about 6 years ago.
Okay.
And we worked on it pretty steady from then. And me and primarily myself and George Hagee.
Okay.
Was a guy that came to work at Vintage Air, and he's a real metal guy, metal shaper guy, and very handy. He's done two things in his life. He's built race cars and he's raced race cars.
There you go.
Until he came over and worked for us. So now he's working on hot rods. But
I probably should have prefaced this by explaining to everyone who you are, just in case somebody may not know.
Yeah.
So you started Vintage Air. When was that?
76. April of 76.
And we'll get around to this later, but you built a car, a Studebaker, that went 200 miles an hour at Bonneville with the air conditioning on.
Yeah, we went about 241.
241. So we'll circle back to that, but let's go back to the Amber car, because I haven't. We've been in here filming. They nail me to the floor here, but I get a chance to escape out to go to the bathroom every once in a while. Yeah. That's why I ran into you the first time. I was making a bathroom run. I was like, there. Jack, So that's not an Amber project. Is not something that you approach lightly. That's a pretty serious operation.
Well, it is, and the truth is, I didn't really have that in mind when I built it. I just wanted to build the car I built.
Okay.
And that's the car I wanted, and I did. I've been thinking about it for a long time, so I kind of knew what I wanted, pretty close. And it actually went back probably to when I was in school. I think I first got the seeds of it back then, because my dad was a Chrysler guy.
Okay.
Plymouth more. And they ran torsion bars. So, torsion bars. So, so this was, and I thought, and I've always kind of wanted to build a car with torsion bars. And that is kind of started the idea that's why the name of the car is the Champ Deuce.
Okay.
Because it's like, I wanted to, you notice the wheels those are real Indy car wheels on that car.
Okay.
They're not new ones. They're old ones. I'm probably 40 years old.
From the 50s?
Yeah, 50s and early 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, they started using that wheel. And they're 18s and 16s. 16s on the front, 18s in the back. But so this whole Indy car, could we build an Indy car influenced car, but still make it a traditional roadster?
Okay.
That's where it kind of started.
Okay.
And so on about.
Which is it's a weird eclectic sort of blend.
It is.
Of two different types of avenues.
It is, but I was a Indy car nut when I was in school, because and my uncle, my great uncle, was the first chief of tech at Indy.
Really?
Yeah. And
what was his name? Oh, okay. It's not important.
My dad told
Chief
him.
of Tech for how many years?
No, he started that. He was the first one.
Wow.
And I don't know how long he did it because he died before I never knew him.
Oh, okay.
But I did meet his daughters, and I went up and, and visited them quite a bit.
Wow. So you have a
them.
direct
That was my
to
connection.
Indy.
That's what.
Yeah.
That was the spark.
Okay.
Of the Indy thing. That's what.
Great.
So I started going to Indy after when I could. And I I'm a big fan and I got a shout out to Jackie Howerton out there on there for inspiration because I got to Indy, I met Jackie right away.
Okay.
And so he at that time he was kind of tired of racing. He wants to talk about hot rods. So I was the hot rodder and he was the racer and so he told me about we were talking about racing and I was talking about hot rodding. And it was just a great relationship. And so that was all part of the formation of this idea on this car.
Hey, we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP-bolts.com. We got a fantastic little backdrop here. They make an outstanding series of bolts, almost anything you would need for engines, chassis, things like that. In fact, we were at lunch today, and a guy asked you about the bolt on the back of your shirt, and I said, well, it's really about a head bolt. They neck the stem down of the bolt on a small block Chevy head bolt, so the clamp load is even across 3 different head bolt lengths on a small block Chevy. And, so that's the kind of technology that you get out of ARP. And we've all got stories on all that stuff.
For a translation of what he said, call ARPbolts.com.
but the message is that you can't get any better than that.
No, you cannot.
There you go.
Nope.
Excellent.
And then just check them out at ARP-bolts.com. We'd like to thank our friends at InTheGarageMedia.com. They have 3 fantastic magazines. They've got Classic Truck Performance, they have Modern Rodding, and my favorite, All Chevy Performance with Nick, my buddy Nick, is the editor.
Biased.
So
Correct.
yes, of course.
Yes.
But they're doing print media, which is of course our favorite. So
In color and
magazine.
everything.
in color and everything, and you can get your car on the cover of one of those books, which is
Right.
a fun
that's a
deal.
lot.
Great tech.
Great
written
tech.
by you
know,
and others
not always
that are
written by me, but yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Not always written by me.
That's right.
Just
So
pick it
check
up and
them
read
out
it.
at InTheGarageMedia.com, and they're our friends, and they will thank you.
I started collecting parts, probably in late 80s, early 90s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and then, and just trying to got a rendering, had Tom Taylor do me a rendering, and I think it's 2000 or 99, 1999. And so then I kind of got it on paper, and it kind of just went from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what drivetrain?
It's got a Dodge, 1956 Dodge Hemi.
Okay, so Hemi.
Yes, Dodge Hemi. Started out as a 315 cubic inch motor.
Which is really tiny. Big engines, but a tiny displacement.
Well, no, the Dodge is pretty small. That's why I chose a Dodge, because it fits in a Deuce pretty dang nice.
Fix it. No, okay.
Yeah, so, and then I stroked it. It's a 355.
Okay.
And then I cast some aluminum heads for it, because nobody makes parts for those things.
So you cast your own cylinder heads?
Cast my own cylinder head.
Whoa.
Cast a water pump riser.
That's wow.
Yeah, I cast a water pump riser to get the fan up where it needs to be on those things, because I'd done that at Vintage Air.
Okay.
We did that for the Chevys, but did it for the Dodge, and we started working on it about 6.5 years ago in earnest, and we had our pile of parts, it just started. George Hagee came on board right before that, and we were doing other stuff. I had other cars we were tinkering with and stuff. And anyway, about 6.5 years ago, we started, okay, we're going to work on this now.
Yeah,
And that was in the back of the Vintage Air, in my shop in the back of Vintage Air.
Okay.
And so it never left my shop all through the building process, But, so we started on it, and, you just start. The first thing we did was build a table to set the car on, right?
Right.
So I got a buddy who owns a machine shop, Gary Gates. He's here, and he has milling machines that are a lot bigger than this room. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And so
So you can mill big pieces of steel.
So we we did this table, and we put a piece of 1/2-inch steel plate with legs on it to roll around and stuff, and then we put aluminum plate on that, and then we took it over to him, and his thing is 6 feet by like 19 or 20. And he chucks it up in his mill, and runs and surfaces the whole thing, and it's dead nuts flat.
Wow.
So anyway, that's how we got
So you have
started.
a reference point now. You've got a perfectly flat reference point.
We had a good table to work on, and we fabbed it from an old depot hack. That was the undercarriage, was an old depot hack with those big steel wheels and stuff.
Really?
And so we figured that'd hold up. So we did that, and then we put the frame on it and started working on the car.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about you cast your own cylinder head. Not everybody does that.
Well, I know. It's one of those things where you go down an alley and all of a sudden you realize there's no exit from the alley.
It's a dead end,
It's
right?
a dead end. And that's kind of what happened. It's like, okay, I want aluminum heads while I'm talking to everybody. Nobody's got any. So, okay, well, we'd been doing casting at Vintage Air for a while, so it wasn't like new. And so, I drew up prints. I used the original in 15, the 315 and 325 used a really good head. It was that first. That was actually, as I understand it, I don't know this for sure, but I believe that most people think Chevrolet was the first one to do 1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Actually, the Chryslers were ahead of them. Yes,
I think the Dodge.
Yes,
did
at
it
273 inches or something like that.
Well, that would have been the
early
315,
the 315. Okay.
Yeah, by then they did a
Okay.
241. They did a 270. Then they jumped to the 315. That's a tall deck motor.
Okay.
And this is a tall deck motor.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
So that's
So
started with that.
you had prints to work from, or did you have to measure everything
basically-
yourself?
Well, no, basically, I took one of those heads and I sent it to the foundry. And I said, I want to do this with a few exceptions. And I called out what I wanted to change, just a few things. Little things that,
Now, did they have to saw that up in order to know where the water jackets and stuff are? Or?
We did. We had to cut one up.
Okay.
Take a look at it. Yeah, we had to cut one up.
Wow.
I don't know,
Wow.
one of those.
Because I know Dart, for example, machine will, if you give them a print, you tell them this is what I want, they'll make it you, but it's made out of, it's billet. It's not a casting.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's a one-off thing, and
Right.
but you can do anything you want. But you did it the harder way, which is to do a casting.
Well, because I figure if I'm making a set for me, then I could probably make some extras and sell them. And sure enough,
So kind of recoup your investment a little bit. Yeah,
and so
because that's not a cheap thing to do, because they have to make sand moldings and all that stuff.
You have to make cores, wooden cores, and
Right,
and
right.
then, and then you do sand, and I did that, and so that way I can make. I think I did enough for 12 motors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
anyway.
24 cylinder heads. So you poured 24. So
Yeah.
So then other people could enjoy the fruits of all your efforts. Yeah. Which is kind of nice. It's a way of paying it back to the industry, so to speak.
Well, it's something to do too. So.
Yeah.
But and then I did a water pump.
And how's that been received?
Well, I haven't told anybody. About it. I mean,
So we're debuting the information here. You heard it here first.
I think I said I haven't told anybody. I think I did talk to somebody. They did an interview or something.
Okay.
And I might have mentioned it there, but
That's okay.
Anyway, I didn't want to talk about it till I got this car done because I don't need. I had enough in your brain, right?
Sure, exactly. And you want to be distracted by people coming in and going, I want to buy a cylinder head.
Yeah.
Let me finish my car first. No, you've got one. I want it. Yeah.
So I've got a batch of them with preliminary machining done. The basic stuff.
Right.
Done now. And
the
then
deck and the guides are drilled and filled. And,
yeah. And so now I got to. I'll just have to assemble them.
And it still uses the same valve train as the original engine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it can.
Okay. Yeah.
It can.
Yeah.
I'm using some aftermarket valve gear, but but you can use the stock gear too.
Wow.
And you can, there's guys also that'll make the rocker arms. They'll give you the ratio you want. Take a stock rocker arm and give you the ratio you want, so you can do that too.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And what induction system is on it?
Well, once again, one of the guys in the machine shop, was a pro mod tuner.
Okay.
And he was tuning most of the fast pro mod cars around the country at the Vintage Air machine shop. So, I was talking to him about it, what are you doing,
Yeah.
And he says, well, I make the induction system. I said, really? So, he said, his name, Cody Chapman is his name.
Okay.
And, I said, could you make, I did some drawings.
Okay.
I drew up what we needed. I knew what we needed, and so I did some drawings and did the CAD file on them.
Okay.
And you know, and he said, "Yeah, I could do them." Well, you know, it wasn't quick, you know.
Nothing happens overnight.
But he
right?
brought me some rapid prototypes pretty quick. You
Okay.
know, he got me some of those done, so we had to start there, and so we made the throttle bodies for the injection system, fuel
Okay.
injection system.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whose fuel injection system are you using?
Well, I'm using a Holly.
A Holly. Okay.
Yeah. I'm using Holly brains. And
It's
all that
become kind of generic, you know, it could, because they're out there and it's easy to use. And
stuff. Yeah, I knew one of the guys there, you know, and
Right,
and I know their stuff was good because I used it on another car.
Okay.
You know, it worked out for me
Okay.
real good. So anyway, yeah.
So once you started assembling the car, how long did it take outside of making your own cylinder heads?
Well, we made, you know, that's the good news and the bad news. Another blind alley is, you know, we're not real conventional on this car. It didn't use a lot of parts you could buy. So we ended up making a lot of stuff. We had Schroeder build us torsion bars, and we machined a guy that's here with us, Gary Gates, machined the torsion bar arms
Okay.
in his place. He's the guy that machines the tables and stuff.
Okay.
And so we just started, you know, we made, honestly, that's why it took 6.5 years. We just made too much of this stuff, you know.
But oftentimes that's what you have to do, especially with a car with an engine like that and the
Well, that's
concept
right.
behind it. It's not a part you can just grab off the shelf. You have to come up with it yourself. Yeah.
It's like, I'll use a Dodge engine. Okay. Whoa. And now and the camshafts, there was nothing available. So a guy named Nick Smithberg helped me out.
Okay,
and
sure.
he spec'd and helped spec a camshaft.
And then you had to find a core.
Yeah, well, he had a core.
Oh, he had a core. Okay.
He had one core.
Well, that's one. Well,
and-
that's, hopefully that's all you need.
No, yeah, well, you know, and so he
Is it a roller or a flat tappet?
It's a roller. It's
Okay, it's a
hydraulic
roller.
roller.
Okay, all right. So
And,
that way you don't have to worry about breaking it in and losing your only core. That would be bad.
Right. Well, yeah, and so he kind of, and then Cam's grounded for us.
Okay.
And so we were good there. And,
Yeah,
and the rest of the drop valve train and stuff wasn't too tough. We used some aftermarket rockers. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly the name. It's been a while since
the rotating assembly was essentially you said you
we used
stroked it.
Yeah, we did offset ground the crank.
Okay.
And stroked it that
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
and it was a stock crank. Those old Dodge and Chrysler.
Were they steel cranks back
yeah.
then? Okay. Yeah.
Great crankshafts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Well, if they're steel, you can work with them.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
was, and so we did that, and yeah, I got the car. And there's a guy named Donnie Anderson in San Antonio. He's built all my motors from the cars where I built them. You know,
Okay.
if we used a crate motor, then no. But he built the motor for the Studebaker.
Okay.
You know, and that old black 39 sedan that I drove
Yeah.
a million miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
He built that motor.
In fact, one of the times I ran into you, you were at an autocross event with Mark Stilo.
Yeah.
And I think it was in that car, wasn't it? The 39?
No, I had a Can-Am car, a little Lola, and a little 36 Ford Coupe.
I think that's
the little green 36
I
Coupe.
think that was the car.
Transaxle in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and an Ellis motor in it. It was a real good car on the track.
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
lot that's my kid's car, Landis's car, and we built it together.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
anyway, I know that's a lot. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But
So you're up against some stiff competition in the AMBR,
well, you know,
as it is always, right?
No, I mean, there's some beautiful cars out there, and you know, we all came here, brought what we wanted to bring, and you know, it's neat. I mean,
I think just being here is
just-
an honor, right? I mean,
No,
just to
it's-
have your car entered in the show as an AMBR potential. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's you know, I really, you know, I'm really enjoying being part of it. You know, it's a great tradition. And,
Yeah.
And you know, the guys, you go out there and you talk. You know who's out there. You know,
Yeah.
all the guys are out there, and they brought their cars, their good cars, and you know, it's. You know, you got to do what you want. You know, you got to do the car that you want to do, and then I think you got to just let the lettuce take care of itself.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Exactly. And that's the whole point of hot rodding is the fact that when it was Mr. Peterson's definition, you know, it's not narrow by any stretch of the imagination. It's very open ended because you want to build what speaks to you.
Yeah.
And this interesting combination of pieces and parts and approaches, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It's got a winter's quick change in it, so it's hot racing parts and
right.
And,
has that Bonneville influence there.
Yeah.
And the dry lakes.
Yeah. And Indy, because they all use those.
And
things.
Indy, sure. Yeah.
And and the wheels are. I think I said the wheels are 18 and 16-inch IndyCar wheels.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is the influences that I still want it to be very traditional, traditional car, but with that racing kind of influence.
Sure, yeah. So let's backtrack a few decades, and you decided to build a 200-mile-an-hour Studebaker with a big block in it, big block Chevy.
Yeah, it was a World Products Super Block.
Yeah,
that tall deck job.
Right,
and
right.
I forget what the stroke on it was, but it's a big long crankshaft, but yeah.
And the concept was take it to Bonneville and go 200 miles an hour with it. And you went did we say 241?
241.
241.
Out the back door.
Yeah, with the air conditioning on.
With the air conditioning
on.
Yeah.
And the Studebaker body style, that was the Presidente body style?
Yeah, it was a
Commander.
It was a Commander hardtop. Hardtop with
which is a very famous car at Bonneville. There's a lot of people that used it because it was clean for its age, because that was what, a 53.
Yeah, 53.
And I'll never forget, I kicked myself forever and ever. I was working for a Dodge dealership in my hometown of Boone, Iowa, but before I went to college, and the owner had lost the lease on his storage shed that he had, and he had a Commander. And I was, he's a young guy. I was 19 years old, and he said, you're into cars, aren't you? And I go, oh yeah, I got my big block Chevelle. And he says, I lost my lease on my storage. You want this? And it was like, I knew enough, at 18 or 19 that this was a car they raced at Bonneville.
Right.
This has history. That particular car didn't. It was just a production car, but it was like, I have no place to put it. My mom was renting a house with no garage, so our cars all sit outside, and it's like, I can't park it in the backyard. Mom won't let me do that. Yeah. So I had to pass on it, and I just kicked myself forever, because I had a chance to have one of those cars, and engine turned dash, and the gauges.
That was a Hawk.
That was a Hawk. It was a Hawk.
Yeah,
okay.
Either a Power Hawk or a Silver Hawk or a Golden Hawk, because they had that engine turned dash.
Yeah.
That's what I put in mine. I put a Hawk dash in it because I love that dash.
Yeah.
So
and it was like, I maybe said, could I just have the dash? No, you got to think it's all or nothing, dude.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice here. But I had to pass on it, so kick myself forever. But so let's talk about, because that was probably an adventure in itself, taking it to Bonneville and running 200 mile an hour. 241.
It was cool. I mean, it was fun. We dragged the car out there, and first time ever I never even been there before. So
so you'd never been to Bonneville.
Never been there, not even to watch. So we just loaded the car. You loaded the car up, and here we go.
Well, I think that's a theme of discussions that we've had with people, is that I didn't, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you just say, well, how tough can this be? This is the idea. We've built the car. We've got the facility. They're going to let us run the car. What could happen, right?
Yeah, right.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked as a rookie team, so to speak, which now looking back at it probably was, shocking even that everything worked the way it was supposed to. But a lot of that has to do with prep on the car, and you had guys working on it that knew what they were doing.
No, you're right, though. I mean, it was just like we went out there and we did it, and we were done, and it's just like...
I think, didn't Gray do the story? Did Gray do the story on the car?
Yes, he did. And he went out to El Mirage with us one time and took a little... I run him up down El Mirage one time, and he really, Gray.
Yeah.
And he goes, whoa.
He's so bitchin'.
Yeah, exactly.
He would come into my office when I was the editor of Hot Rod. He had just come back from Bonneville. I forget what year it was.
Yeah.
And, back then, now everybody's in cubicles. But back then, we each had our own individual office. And I just had him in the corner of my eye, saw him walk by, and he comes back in, he sticks his head around the corner, looks at me and goes, and then walked away.
Yeah.
It was like, it's Gray,
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful, wonderful person, because and he would have a little rug that he would take out. So when he got on his knees to shoot low angle shots and stuff, and everybody called it his prayer rug, because he would go out there every year at Bonneville was that was his mecca. You know?
Yeah, when we went out there that time, Tom Medley tagged along too. So can you
Really?
imagine?
Oh, yeah, Tom Medley and Gray.
And
oh
they
my
were
God.
going back and forth.
Because Tom Medley was the very first employee at Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a
And
very good friend.
when I started at Carcraft, his son Gary was our editorial assistant. You know, so I walked in and he introduced himself. I said, you know, I'm my eyes are this big anyway because I'm working at Carcraft magazine, wet behind the ears, kid from Iowa, and I said, Tom Medley's son? You know? Yeah. You know, and it was like, not a big deal.
Gary.
You know, and we still talk today. It's fun. He's a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah,
So
while we were out on El Mirage, the sun went down.
Oh, yeah.
We had no idea how to get out of there because there's soft spots everywhere.
Right.
And you
it's
get
so
stuck in
dark.
that thing and you never get out. So
Yeah.
we went over and talked to there. You know, a guy lives right on the edge of El Mirage. And a guy has a house there. Really? We walked over into his house about a quarter of a mile or so. I said, how do we get out of here? And he says, I'll show you.
So we'd like to thank our sponsor, ARP and ARP-bolts.com. And I mean, we all three build cars. We all work on this stuff. And
I tinker.
You tinker.
I tinker.
Yes, we all build.
Yeah, and you know what? It's kind of a really cool multiple purpose fastener for me because there's all the science and all the technology, which is bottomless. Trust me. Unbelievable amount of research that they put into these things.
Absolutely.
And on top of it, you get them out of the package, and they're absolutely beautiful. Which I've joked before, it's like jewelry for your car. When we're building when we're building a high end car, there isn't anything else going on it. It's part of the criteria for me to have them lining the engine bay, not just on the engine, everywhere.
Yeah. Right.
So you get all the strength, the durability, the reliability, and fantastic good looks.
Sure.
Kind of like Jeff here.
And without peer. Without peer.
Anybody else? You know what?
Or pairs.
Without peer, there's nobody else that does what they do.
It is. So check them out at arp-bolts.com and they can help you out. So we'd like to thank our friends at allamerican.com. They make some fantastic suspension pieces, coilover shock conversions. We put one on my Chevelle. Outstanding little piece of operation.
I just did a story on an El Camino.
And on El Camino, that's right.
And it's running a hot rod. Look at that.
Yeah. So, and then I think there's a little promo.
There's a promo code, CarGuy10. So when you're online, put in CarGuy10 and you will get 10% off.
Look at that.
Well, that's not bad.
And we don't expect you to send any part of that back to us.
No.
So I think we should really push that, right? You know,
Absolutely.
So you're on your
I'd like
own.
some.
You're on your own. So thanks again to aldenamerican.com and check them out. I heard a story that the name Muroc actually came, it was the reverse spelling of Coram family that first settled there. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds right. You know, it sounds plausible. So fact check. Yeah. There you go.
I haven't heard of that, but I believe it.
Yeah, the car got really dirty though, didn't it?
Well, it's that silty stuff.
It is.
And it's
so
oily.
fine.
And it's oily kind of.
And it finds its way into everything.
It does, and it just like it just blankets the car and it sticks.
Yeah.
And so I brought the car all the way back to Texas, and that stuff was still just all over it. You know, you got to take a hose and a sponge.
And then you probably had to almost disassemble the car after Bonneville, right?
Yeah.
Because the salt gets everywhere.
Yeah, you do.
My friend John Bechtel built a, I think it was Seagas Coupe Firebird, and was that true about that thing? Amazing, isn't it? There's still a couple brain synapses that still work.
Who knew?
And brought the car home, and I went to his house just to kind of go over what had happened because I was tenuously involved with the crew slightly, and I mean it was just caked in salt. Yeah. And it's like, how are you going to get rid of this? He goes, well, I'm probably going to kill every plant in my backyard. Yeah. Because I'm just going to hose all this down, and it's going to be like the Salton Sea in my backyard. Everything's going to die. And I've heard you put sprinklers under the car and let them run for days. Yeah. And it's still rusted.
Whatever you can do.
Were you able to,
Well, and this car, it had carpet in it.
Yeah,
right? It's not a race car. Right. I mean, it's a race car, but it's not a race car. But it had carpet in it, so the carpet and the salt, you just had to take it all apart.
I had an idea to run my Chevelle at one time at the Dry Lakes, and my friend Tim Morris had run for many, many years out there, and he says, "Don't do it because you'll never get all the dirt out of the car ever. You'll be driving around, with the windows down, all of a sudden this." it'll just blow up in your face because it'll be dust that you didn't even know was there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Window cranks and just gum up and everything else. So yeah.
So
then you took it on. Then you took the car on Power Tour.
Yeah.
Because I remember we'd hang out with you guys because and that was a pretty radical camshaft to make the horsepower to go that fast and then drive it on the street. Yeah. And it kind of broke some valve springs, as I recall.
Yeah. But you know, those were, remember, all the guys got together and they left from the back of the Peterson on the parking lot there.
Yeah.
And everybody, and it's just all these guys showed up, and who knew, you know? And
it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I think I was hanging out with your mechanic at the time, and it was like, this is like the 4th valve spring I've changed.
Yeah,
and
that was
like,
Donnie, the engine builder guy. Yeah.
And it was like, well, yeah. And now looking back at it, I mean, radical camshafts back in the day, and valve trains were not handled on, you know, because you're driving on the road with all that same valve lift and everything else. That's right. Exactly the way the engine was built, which was a testament really to the engine itself, that you could go 241. Yeah. Do you remember how much horsepower it made?
No, it's right. It was right at 1,000.
1,000 horsepower. Okay.
Yeah, it was a mild motor.
Normally aspirated.
But it's a 700-inch motor.
Right.
And that was a big motor back then.
And what transmission?
Jericho.
A Jericho. Okay. Yeah. And the Jericho's still in it for the Power Tour?
Yeah. Oh no!
Those are, for those of you who don't know, that's a straight cut gear. You know, in the first 3 gears, they howl like crazy, don't they?
Yeah. And I was running straight cuts in the quick change too.
So like, whoa. Yeah, it's singing to you, right? Yeah. But that's part of the ambiance of the car, right?
It didn't bother us a bit. And you know, on that Power Tour, you know, the first thing we did coming out of L.A. and we cut up and we cut across to. What is that? Going to Vegas.
15?
Yeah, I think so. And it was like a 200-mile trip, but it was like nobody there.
Yeah.
It was just open road, and you know, so.
Opened it up a couple times, maybe? Of course. Yeah. You have to with a car like that. Yeah.
Hey, what are you going to do?
Oh, yeah. Got all this power and a straight road and no one else around. Let's do this. Yep. We've all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So any new projects? I mean, obviously this is, you know, a stunning example of your work, but you have some other ideas and things you want to do?
You know, I'm probably going to. Probably not. I think I've got what I need right now. You know, I have Tom's 40.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes. So we should tell that story.
Okay.
So mentioning Tom Medley.
Yeah.
So Tom Medley's first employee of Peterson, and he had a 40 or 41?
40 coupe.
40 coupe.
Yeah, deluxe.
And lived in Burbank and had the car in his little, you know, World War II era house. Yep. So it's a tiny little garage.
Yep.
And all of his drawings were in there too.
A lot of them, but some of them were in other places.
Yeah, which was good.
Yeah.
Because what happened, unfortunately, was this was probably about 15 years ago, something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
And he went to start it up to go take it for a little putt, whatever, and the carburetor backfired. Next thing you know, it's on fire.
Yeah, no, I think it was actually in the garage when
it was in the garage. Yes,
you're right. Yeah,
so it was in the garage, backfired.
Yeah,
and
it knocked him down.
Yeah.
He fell back.
By this time, he was probably in his 80s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then it just got out of control, and by the time the fire department got there and put it out, it had pretty much destroyed the car and most of the garage. Where a lot of his, because again, for some of you who may not know, Tom Medley penned the character Stroker McGurk. Which was a continuing cartoon in Hot Rod Magazine. Yeah. And he was, in various ways, was very innovative. I think the very first use of a parachute to slow a car down was in a Tom Medley Stroker McGurk cartoon.
That's as I understand.
And Gary put together a book of that stuff. And I bought it from him. I said, I got to have this book because it's part of Peterson history. Yeah. And Tom was still there when I started in '79. Yeah. And, you know, and met him a few times and said, you know, I'm a Stroker McGurk fan, you know. Yeah.
He was in the library by then, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, in fact, a great story about that. The librarian, Jane, that was working there, we called her Jungle Jane. And so my very first day, so they take me downstairs to the photo lab, which was next to the library, and said, at 8490 Sunset, and said, you know, this is our new staff guy, you know, sign in, you know, give me a brick of film, 400 film, and then here's our library if you need stuff. So I met Jane, I met Tom, and so Jane says, you know, your name's Jeff Smith, right? Yeah. And she goes, man, you know, I know most of the writers. I just don't really recall seen your byline before. She said, what were you doing before you came here? I said, working at a gas station in Ames, Iowa. And she looked at me like, you're kidding me, right? I went, nope, pretty much is true. Hey. And Rick Foglin hired me, took a chance on me, and we've told this story before, but there were two guys that came up for the job at Carcraft in 1979 to replace Al Kirschenbaum, who had gone to Hot Rod, and it was Cam Benty and I.
Oh God.
Yeah. So here we are. I've done this many times,
yep.
but our careers have done this for, what's that now? 40 some odd years, 44 years, yikes. So, yeah. So, I mean, great stuff. And Tom Milley, so then the car got burned up really badly.
Got burned.
And went down to a shop down in San Diego.
Well, yeah.
Right?
So, we were out of town somewhere, way away, and we heard about it. And so I called Randy Clark down at Hot Rods and Custom Stuff.
Right.
And, I says, Tom's car burned. We need to do something. So anyway, we did a bunch of things to raise money. Mm-hmm. Randy never probably really got taken care of completely
the way he should have
for what he did.
Because when your car gets burned, man, I mean, there wasn't probably a straight panel on that car.
No, right? and to his credit, unbelievable. And if you saw the pictures of this thing, you wouldn't have believed it. But he saved all the sheet metal on that car except
amazing.
For the hood.
Wow.
We just talked about that yesterday.
Because it was so cooked so badly that it was
the hood
had
just
to be replaced.
and then Tom had another hood in the garage. So I mean, not in the garage, but the storeroom.
In the storeroom, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So he had all the pieces to put it back together.
Yeah, so
and it was a flathead, correct?
No, it had a small block Chevy.
Oh, okay.
He was a buddy of the guy that ran the racing program for General Motors.
Okay.
And and Tom told him about his car, and he says, "Well, just you're going to get a package, and a nice little motor from the race shop showed up, and it's still in there."
Really?
Still motor.
So they saved the motor and rebuilt it?
Yeah, the motor
Wow.
was able to be saved.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah, so anyway.
And then what trans was in it? It was probably like
it's a turbo 300 or
turbo
something
350,
like
something like that. Yeah,
400.
okay.
I honestly I can't remember.
Okay. All right.
But anyway.
So they saved the car.
Yeah.
Gave it back to him, and then you bought it from the family after Tom passed away.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Well, Gary, Tom's son, when after it's over, Tom willed the car to his Gary's daughter.
Okay.
I think it was, but Gary, and so Gary got the car, and Gary, he kind of didn't know, he didn't have the space for it and stuff, and he said, I'd like you to buy this car, and I said, Gary, he gave it to you. I want you to take it.
Yeah, it should stay in the family.
Yeah, and I said, you take it, and I said, but if you decide you're going to sell it, no matter what I say, whatever I think,
right?
Call me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was about, I think it was a couple of years, and his daughter just, I think she was in college, and I think it was just tough for her,
right?
And she just couldn't see herself doing that, and I think so. He called me, and I said, okay,
yeah. Well, it went to a good home.
Yeah, no, the
story survives. That's the thing that you think about is that there's so much history with this car and who Tom was and the things he did for Peterson and for hot rodders in general and karting. He was a big karting guy,
a big go-karting,
big karting guy.
In fact, I have 3 of his go-karts.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
That I got him from him. We traded stuff. Tom.
So there's so much history there that you hope that it doesn't get lost, and with you, it's not. So that's great. That's outstanding.
It's got a home, but
yeah.
So
many cars you have?
Oh, I don't have that many anymore. I've kind of scaled down, but I got the 40. Mm-hmm. I've got if I count the cars we did for my kids. So I got a 36 Ford 3-window coupe, that one, and I've got that 59 green El Camino. Yeah, and what else? Oh yeah, my daughter has a little 57 Corvette.
Nice.
Yeah. It's on. Yeah,
and a T-Bird?
56 T-Bird, which I gave to one of my other daughter. And
Nice eclectic mix of vehicles.
Yeah,
yeah. It's not like me where it's like single focus guy.
I had a Lola T70, but I just sold it recently.
So the one outside
like
here
that,
was like that one outside.
And I had a Lola T160, which was kind of a road race car.
Wow.
It was a Can-Am car, was.
Okay.
And I'd take that up to the track in Austin.
Ooh.
That was fun. She didn't care for it. My wife didn't care for it that much.
Oh man, I just think, ultimate vehicle.
Well, it was
performance vehicle.
Had a lot
so
of
did you
fun.
get a chance driving it?
Oh yeah, sure. We took it up
man.
there, and it was about 675 horsepower and 1,500 pounds.
Woo! That will do
But
this to you.
Maybe you might go do a little loop every once in a while, but pretty much, it was a good driving car.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Wow. Well, this has been great. This has been a lot of fun. Great stories, and that's what we're trying to do here. It's like I was just telling Harry Hibbler was here not too long ago, just a few minutes ago. We're going to try and see if we can find him still at the show. We'll grab him in here. But, there are just so many stories. And I was telling him that I'm working on a story right now, again, historical based, a piece on interviewing 4 older transmission builders that were there at the beginning. And, it's just a lot of fun and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So, this is the kind of stuff we need to do.
If you take the guys that are here today and, at this deal and take the stories, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It would be endless.
Because who's not here? They're all here.
Yep.
You just name it, and they're here, and it's such an opportunity. I'm glad you're taking advantage.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
and
sir.
So much for sharing some stories with us. It's been fantastic. And if you need to know more, just keep watching this show. So we want to thank our friends at arp-bolts.com and also our pals at the Grand National Roadster Show for helping us, giving us a little spot here to do this, and you bring your car, and hopefully you win the AMBR Award.
Well, if that happens, then that'd be great. But you know what?
It's
the
an honor
main
to be
thing
here,
is
right?
it's finished here. It got finished. It's here, and then can't wait to get it.
That's a win in itself.
That's it, and can't wait to get it home and put some miles on it.
Excellent. So thanks for watching. Click the button to subscribe, and we'll keep telling you stories.